Welcome to another session of Easy Dharma for the New Normal, and this is your friendly Pastor David Lai here to give you another session of Introduction to Buddhism by Geshe Kelsang. All right, so today is the sixth chapter and the sixth session of Introduction to Buddhism. So we've covered who was Buddha, understanding the mind, past and future lives, what is karma, our precious human life, what is meditation, and now today we're going to talk about death. So death. So we will be, it is something that we always hear about in Buddhism. It is something that it's the first chapter in the Lam, or rather, Rinpoche says it's the first chapter. It is not really exactly the first chapter, but it's like the first teaching, death and impermanence. Okay, the main part of the teachings, and so it is. It's very crucial for us to go through it, understand it, contemplate. It's more of a contemplative topic, a meditational topic. It's something to evoke a sense of renunciation, a sense of impermanence, that's what death is about. It's not a morbid subject. It's not to make us suicidal or make us feel despondent. It's not meant for that. Actually, it should be the reverse. When we contemplate on death in the correct way, it makes us appreciate people and appreciate the fortunate circumstances we have right now better, and so that we know what to do, and we are kind of like nudged in the right direction, to think in the right direction, to appreciate what we have and stuff like that. Okay, so before we begin, the two things came to mind. I was thinking about it, and two things came to mind. One was, I think I said it a few times across my live streaming career. One of my earliest memories of Rinpoche was meeting Rinpoche one day, and then he told me, I was telling Rinpoche that, it was a traffic jam, and then, and I had to pass by a funeral, and when I said it like, with trepidation, and it's like, it's bad luck, it's taboo. But Rinpoche said that he sensed my hesitation the way I said it. I didn't say, it's bad. I just said, it's a funeral, So Rinpoche sensed what I was thinking, so he said that actually it was you were lucky. Okay, anyway, before we carry on, let me see who's on first and whether I'm really online. I think I'm online. Oh, yes, I am online. Okay, I can see myself now. And I just want to see who's on. Okay, let me put the resolution. Okay. Oh, there's a lot of people. Mr. Lam, Martin Chow, Kin Ho, and Esther Go, Jillian, Shelley Tai, Quang Ming, Mun Ting, Satsa Ong, and Sharon Ong. Hello, good evening, everybody. And today we'll be talking about death. I had to make it a little bit more lively and not. Well, I just thought it was, it's a subject that. How do I say this? It's understandably Buddhist. It's also a subject that is, perhaps for some people, it's a little morbid. For some people, it's a little boring because we've approached this a million times over, especially in the Lam. And it is something that I think these days, I heard somebody told me, this year there's a lot of people, there's a lot of funerals. And it's like, like, this person didn't say it in a bad way. She just said, it's just a reminder of how fragile our life is and stuff like that. So that's what this teaching is about, actually. So You can tell. You can of course ask any questions, post your thoughts. Please do. I like to read what you think, not just I'm blabbering on and on and on. I have no idea what you're thinking over there. And when you have a thought, an idea that you wish to share, please do. Even if it's not related, maybe it's inspired what I say. Just write. If it's a one-liner. If it's a whole paragraph, I'm sure you can listen and type at the same time, and shouldn't be a problem, right? So, or you have a question. I think this subject today, there won't be many questions. But if you do, please do. Please let me, please ask away. So, oh yeah, I was talking about the funeral that I saw, and Rinpoche said that Rinpoche told me actually it's fortunate. It's good luck. I was like, good luck? Why good luck? Why is a funeral good luck? Seeing it's not my funeral or someone I know. It's just I just passed by, and then I said it in such a way that it was taboo because I mean that's what I was brought up with, lah. I think in Asia, in Chinese culture, funerals are bad energy and it's taboo in a sense. Not as in the funeral is bad. It's just the energy, the sadness. So what happened is, so Rinpoche completely turned it around and said it was good luck. And then I asked Rinpoche, why is it good luck? And then Rinpoche responded by saying that there are very few things in life that reminds us of our mortality, of our death. And when you come across it, it's good luck because it reminds you that it's good for your Dharma practice. So that's why. Okay, that's one thing that came to mind when it was this chapter. When I was just flipping the pages. And usually what I do is before a class I flip and then I read a little, I skim through it and see what thoughts come to me, and then I share with you guys. And that's one. Another thing was it was a teaching that Rinpoche shared, and it was a question posed to one of Rinpoche's gurus. In a sense that this person asked Rinpoche's guru, probably Khenso Rinpoche if I'm not mistaken, Khenso Jampa Yeshe if I'm not mistaken, why is it always about death? Why is Buddhist teaching so morbid? Why is it always death, death, and death? Why can't it be life, life, and life? We're alive. Why would we have to think about death? So the teacher, Khenso Rinpoche, if I'm not mistaken, was very, very patient and explained that if we were to study about something, about the joys of life and how good life is, the motivating factor will not be as strong. It will not motivate us to practice and it also encourages to think that, like we're so good and we should enjoy life and that's it, Instead of enjoying life and being engrossed with life, a lot of things in our life is attachment. So instead of that, when you think about death, what it evokes in us is a sense of life is impermanent, which is exactly what it is, because life is impermanent, which we will be discussing in the chapter. There's some discussion here on a very surface level, which is good. It's good enough for us because right now it is something for us to contemplate. And if the subject matter makes you feel uneasy, if the subject matter makes you feel, oh, it's bad, although you understand the meaning now, it just goes to show that we have a certain level of attachment to our life, to our body, to what we have to, and our general attachments are quite strong. So knowing that, it's good to hear it again and again to, how do I say this, chipped away at the attachment. Immediately remove all attachments immediately just upon hearing teaching is not possible for us at this point, but over time. Hence, we have different sorts of teachings, but death and impermanence is the basis of all of Buddhism, all of Buddha Dharma. All right? Okay, let's start. Okay, I have a little one-liner from Mr. Lam. Death is definitely not a taboo subject. For a lot of people, it is though. Okay, death. Everyone is aware of the fact that sooner or later he or she will die. But for most of us, this is just a superficial awareness. Deep down, we habitually assume that our death will not occur until some time in the distant future. All the time in the back of our mind, there is the tacit assumption that we will not die today. Even on a day on which we actually die, we will probably be assuming that we will not die, and by making plans for the next day, we live our life, remain in this world forever. And consequently, we devote ourselves almost all of the time to the affairs of our life and think little about what will happen. Our preoccupation with trivial, mundane activities causes us to waste our precious human life. Instead of using it to accomplish one of the 3 great goals mentioned earlier, we use it only to obtain food, clothing, and shelter, to acquire material possessions, to indulge in sex and other superficial pleasures, and to seek promotion and high social status. In this respect, we are no different from animals who scavenge for food, make shelters, produce young, and protect their territory, and vie for supremacy within the herd or flock. So it's very interesting because it enters into the subject matter. Excuse me. Excuse me. It deals with the subject matter about why we tend to how we generally view death, because it's something that is in the back of our mind, that is relegated to our funerals that we have to attend, obligatory moments in our life. And then other than that, we are more consumed with affairs of this life. We are just concerned about what's going to happen every single day, what's our plans we're going to do with work, with our family, with friends, with our hobbies, our pursuits, our business. So we live our day in, day out with these sort of plans. And more often than not, anything that is long term in the sense of spirituality, it's something that is touch and go, that we occasionally have it. Occasionally it comes to mind, and then we do a little bit, and that's it. And we think, oh, we've done some Dharma, and we've done some preparation for our future lives, and we think it's enough. So that's why if we do enough contemplation of our death and how unprepared we are, because the very fact that we are scared, the very fact that the subject matter strikes fear in our hearts when we attend a funeral, when we hear of someone we know passes away, immediately we feel a sense of emptiness, a sense of fear for some of us, a sense of trepidation. That what kind of trepidation? A trepidation that it will come closer to us. Whether we admit it or we don't admit it, that's the fear. And when our time comes, we are totally unprepared, because all our preparation for this, all our work we've done in life, whatever, all our pursuits in life, very few of it reminds us of death, as Rinpoche said. Very few of it will prepare us for that final moment. And when it comes, it is the most tumultuous experience we'll ever experience. Because just imagine, you have no feeling, no sensation anymore, no breath, no thirst, no hunger anymore, cannot see anything, cannot feel anything. You can't feel the earth under you, you can't feel the heat. You just plunge into a different world, and that different world have all sorts of different sensations that's totally foreign to us. Okay, so there are other teachings that go into the dissolution of the elements to give you an experiential feeling of what it's like to pass away. So, but anyway, the point about it is for us to realize that as long as we keep shelving it behind in the back of our minds, we continue to remain unprepared. We continue to, it's not important, or it's something that we are scared of, or that we don't want to face. It is something that is only relegated to someone else, because some of us think we are young. Some think, oh, it's not my time yet to think about it. I'm already, 40, halfway there. So that's why Rinpoche had a teaching in a sense that just imagine 10, 20 years down the road, 30 years down, how many people in this room, that teaching was a crowded room, of course. How many of us will be still here? 40 years down the road, 50 years down the road, 60 years down the road, Rinpoche said all of us will be gone. Just imagine 60 years. You think it's a huge amount of time. Actually, it's not. That's how Rinpoche skillfully brings us to the reality that it can come very quickly. Why it can come very quickly is because our concept of time is very warped, because we think it's very long because, it's a huge number. But actually, because of our distractions, it's very quick. When we engage in distractions, we engage in mundane things, time moves very fast. All right? So let's go to the next page. A human life such as ours is extremely rare and difficult to obtain. So what a great tragedy it would be if, instead of using it to advance spiritually, we were to waste it by living like an animal. The best way to avoid wasting our precious life is to become acutely aware of our impermanence by meditating on death. We meditate on death to acquaint our mind with 3 thoughts. I will definitely die. Number 1, I will definitely die. Number 2, the time of my death is utterly uncertain. Number 3, the time of my death and after my death only the practice of Dharma will help me. We need to meditate on these thoughts again and again in analytical meditation until we develop a deep experience of them and they come to affect the way we live our life. To acquaint ourselves with the first thought, we can contemplate 3 lines of reasoning. Number 1, I will definitely die because there is no way to prevent my body from finally decaying. Day by day, moment by moment, my life is slipping away. Number 2, my death will become regardless of whether or not I have made the time to practice Dharma. That's the scary part. By contemplating these points, we come to a clear conclusion, I will definitely die. And we meditate on this conclusion in placement meditation. So, it's just 3 things only at the beginning, which is, you will definitely die. Nobody have to convince anybody. All of us know this is universal logic. This is universal truth. In the sense that there's no one who dispute it, that we will definitely die. Although there's some people, I know there is some people who, they want to preserve their body. There's what cryogenics, in which they freeze, at the point of death, they freeze their body. Hopefully in the future, they're able to revive it with more advanced technology. But then at this point, in this time, that is not possible. And so it's not possible. So, but I don't think anybody has any thoughts of that, that will be possible. More people are more in a sense of avoidance. People's issues about death is avoidance. People's issues about death, it's fear. In a sense that avoidance and fear, it's related. We fear death, and that's why we avoid it. And because we avoid it, that's why we, it doesn't come to mind, or it's a taboo subject, or it's like, you don't want to talk about it. Because I spoke to some people before, some totally non-spiritual people, friends, about death in that sense, and preparation for a future reality, life, whatever you want to call it. And it's scary for them. That's what the response I got was, it was fear. It was fear and avoidance. So Perhaps some people just don't have the merits to hear any deeper, so they just refuse to listen. So they're closed. So I hope that any of you guys, especially if you're in the Dharma, we are constantly reminded through teachings. We are very fortunate, and we're very fortunate because we're constantly reminded. And even Rinpoche's passing last year was a huge teaching for all of us, because in a sense that he passed away at a time where he is still young. We are still all around, and he showed us that, it's something that all of us have to go through. It's something that we have to go through, and that obviously Rinpoche was prepared. Obviously Rinpoche has the know-how of how to traverse it and have full control. We don't. So fortunately for us, because we don't have that meditative ability to control we're going to die, he left us with the greatest gift, which is Dharma. The second greatest gift is Dodishuden. Not the other way around, okay? Not Dodishuden more important than Dharma. Dharma first and then Dodishuden. Because if we don't know how to practice the Dharma, Dodishuden can help us very little. If we're able to practice, accumulate tremendous amount of merits, then Dodishuden will help us even more. If you attempt to apply the teachings, there's a lot of tremendous amount of merits when we try to apply the teachings and transform and change. Okay, I see some thoughts here. For number one, for a family with loved ones in a vegetable state on life support, how would we know when to let them go? More specifically, when do we stop life support? Ooh, that's a question for me. All right. Number two, for patients who are terminally ill, what's the Buddhist take on their request for DNR, do not resuscitate? Who are terminally ill, what's the Buddhist take on their request for terminally ill, do not resuscitate? I think you mean that there is some kind of, I'm not very familiar with what you're talking about, Sharon, but okay, let me go number two first, it's easier. Number two, in the sense that it is a request for a person who is dying, terminally ill, right, that do not resuscitate. Oh, you mean as in not saving the person at a certain point where it's not to save the person, right? Yeah. So, what's the Buddhist take of it? I think that the Buddhist take of it is, in general, for these two questions, let's see if it can carry for both, is like this. When the suffering that we experience, all of us will probably experience quite a bit of suffering just before we die. And the experience of suffering is the fruitioning of karma. It's the as in with the experience of karma. So we will rather have the karma fruition in this life than we carry it over to the next. No matter how much you want to bypass karma, unless it's purified completely, you will definitely have to experience it again. So it would be better if we experience it fully now, in this life, rather than carry it to the next, because we don't know what's the circumstances like in the next life. So, so with regards to not being resuscitated, I would think that I think it's Buddhist in a sense that if it's the request of the person, it comes to a point where death, because this is a question of morality here. This is a question of decisions as well. Okay, number two, it's more of the decision of the person who is deceased. So it's fine. He or she has made the decision that, do not resuscitate. I want to pass away. Just let it be. And karmically, that is good. Karmically, it's good because karma is purified, and already the lifespan and all is already used up. It is said that you need life, you need merit, and you need karma to sustain a person to be alive. So when you're dying, you have depleted all three for this life. So when it's depleted, you will definitely have to go. All right. So sometimes it takes a bit of depletion because the karma to experience certain pain and suffering, disease, is still there. It would be better to experience it, not as in if it's extreme pain and not take painkillers. No, that's not what I mean. It means to go through it with medication and all that, and to our best that we can, and to whatever that's available to alleviate as much suffering, but still having to go through it. All right. And then the first one, I keep having messages pop up. The first one, it's a decision of the family. It is not a decision of the Buddha or anyone else. It's a decision of the family, the loved ones, right? To do what's necessary. As I said before, if the person has to experience a certain amount, but when the person is in a vegetable state, there is no experience. The person is just, unconscious. So there is no experience, no period, no experience or what you call fruitioning of karma. It's just a vegetable state. The person is in, comatose, unconscious. So it's no point, and that's what I think, and. So if you're talking of euthanasia, that's a very contentious topic, which I will not go into it today. Today's topic is actually more just on death as a general subject matter for us to contemplate and inspire and be inspired by it. All right. If you have any thoughts about what I've just said, please share. If you agree, don't agree, also share, and put your thoughts up. All right. I see a lot of little emotional emoticons coming up. So basically, most important is to reinforce the thought that we will die, and I think we already know that. We just have to remind ourselves. We always have to look out for reminders, and often we don't really have to look far, because we will, if we are sufficiently mature enough and old enough, and our circle of friends are wide enough, you will experience some sort of passing, funerals, just very early on. Our relatives, initially it's our relatives, then over time it's our friends or our peers. As you get older and older, more and more of our friends will pass away. More and more our relatives will pass away. And these are reminders. As Rinpoche say, it's good luck, because it is a moment for us to contemplate on our own mortality. The fear that we've experienced is not theirs. You're not fearing for them, it's fearing for ourselves. Actually, for some of us, we think, we're afraid of what's going to happen to them, their family, and then we're emotional and all that. Actually, we're thinking about ourselves. So it is good. That fear is good. Rinpoche said that fear can be positive. And it's usually, it will turn out to be positive, although initially it's paralyzing for some people. And if it's paralyzing, it also shows, Rinpoche said, it also shows our level of attachment to our body and in this life. All right. So when we have tremendous amount of attachment, then we will experience a lot of suffering when we are dying, because we can't let go. And that can lead to a negative rebirth because of the amount of attachments we need to, that's holding us back. So that will open up a negative karma, throwing karma of taking a negative birth. Why is that? Because all sorts of attachments as negative, whether it's for a loved one, whether it's for something positive, whatever it is, as a loved one and all that. The only attachment that doesn't bring us negative repercussion is attachment to Dharma. So that would not be called attachment, because some people ask me before, what if I'm attached to Buddha? What if I'm attached to Dorje Shugden or Rinpoche, So then, actually, that's not attachment, that's devotion. So you just need to know how to channel it, how to channel that attachment, that devotion into our practice, to motivate us to practice. When you channel it to our practice, you get tremendous amount of blessings and transformation. You just need to channel it. At the moment, it's just emotions. When like Rinpoche passed into clear light. There are many of us who are extremely emotional, crying, despondent, and we're upset. Wonderful. I think it's wonderful. But the thing is, that devotion, that sadness, that loss, the feeling of loss for your guru, your spiritual guide, for someone who has benefited you so much, how do you channel it? Rinpoche has given so many teachings. So it's good time to go back through the teachings and revive all the instructions or the advice or whatever it is, to go through it and practice. Even Rinpoche's death can be so beneficial for us. All right? So that's why they say a high lama, when they pass away, is a teaching for his students. Oh yeah, there was a little mention which I didn't talk about, which is about how we live our lives, which is we basically, for most of us, especially, we have our commitments, we have our jobs, we have our family, we have our whatever, financial, material commitments, and then our whole life is in pursuit of that. And then the description there was, there's no different from animals. The animal would also seek food, livelihood, which for a human being is livelihood, food, procreation, sex, partners, husband, wife, and then they also procreate, and then we also have, we have children. So we are no different from animals. And I wanted to bring this, I want to highlight this because I had an encounter with someone before. It was a very interesting encounter because at the time I was very new, and when I heard this in the teaching, and I was like, wow, that's so true, and it hit me quite strongly in a sense of that similarity. And so what happens is, I told it to someone, and I was just very new in Dharma, so I was very eager. So I just, shared with a friend who is not in Dharma and all, had no basis of Dharma. And I said, oh, we are like animals, just all we care is food. And so what happened was, this person was furious and said, what do you mean? I'm not an animal. I have a job. I'm a human being. I can think. So that was quite jarring for that person, because I was not skillful. I didn't know how to explain the intricacies of that similarity. So whatever I conveyed made this person feel like, wow, I'm degrading this person. So I thought it was interesting, because some people may find that, may share the similar sentiment with the person. But actually, if we push our emotions aside, we push our, our judgment about, our superiority, essentially our pursuits are similar. It's just that as human beings, we manifest it in a more sophisticated manner. Okay, so we manifest our pursuits of procreation, of livelihood, of food, search for food and all that, in a more sophisticated manner. But essentially, it's the same thing. The karma is the same. Hence, it's important to understand that. Hence, it's important that we should, if we are in the Dharma, what we should do is realize that, and also add to that Dharma. So when we add to that Dharma, then the pursuits will not be just samsara. It will not just be on base, sensory pleasure. I have given teachings before. I won't go into it now because it's too long, and it's related, but it's not directly related. So the thing is, because if we don't, then we are actually, what we're doing every single day, we're creating more and more causes to be reborn in samsara, specifically as animals. We're creating causes to be, that doesn't mean we will be reborn as animals, but the causes are planted. Each time we indulge in our senses, each time we indulge in, all the things that, basically. Okay. And let's see, I've got some comments here, which is nice. Mr. Lam says, oops, he jumped. Pulling the plug on a person who is just vegetative state is similar to killing. we may have the motivation to lighten the physical suffering of the patient, and pulling the plug can be interpreted to having the intention to kill, minus the rejoice, of course. What's the Dharma teaching in this situation? Dharma teaching in this situation. Pulling the plug on someone, you're right, it is killing. It is killing. There's no recourse from it from a karmic point of view, except that if your intent is to lessen the suffering, then the repercussion will be less. But that doesn't mean that the act was not committed. The act is committed. At times we have no choice. For some people who are in unfortunate circumstances, we have to pull a plug on someone who is a loved one. It's going to be suffering. It's going to be pure torture. And it will be more important to what can be done afterwards, the pujas that we can do, not just for yours to purify your karma of killing, but more so for this person's next rebirth. Okay, so just because it's a negative, so that's why in Dharma we have a lot of tools, and that's why we have a lot of pujas. That's why we have a lot of rituals, which becomes tools for us to deal with various types of situations. And this is one of them that you brought about. And the pujas can come in many ways, from animal liberation. It doesn't have to be just rituals and reciting mantras. It can be animal liberation, sponsoring of statues, sponsoring of temples, especially the sponsoring of something that is related to the body, speech, and mind of the body, especially the body of the Buddha, statues, to purify the karma. I remember I heard of someone who had an abortion, approached Rinpoche about her situation and her remorse and what she felt, and Rinpoche prescribed a puja of having to sponsor a number of statues, huge statues, for the deceased fetus. See, things like that can be done to purify the karma. It's just sometimes it just cannot be avoided. You don't talk about avoiding something that cannot be avoiding. Okay, the English didn't come out right. We shouldn't be talking about avoiding something that cannot be avoided. So it's more of what we do afterwards, right? Okay, and after that is Sharon. Sharon says, thank you for replying my questions. It's actually not just for our own selves, but for caregivers to do what's best for the dying so that they have the best death process. I think it's important for us to help our loved ones have a good dying process, especially when the loved one does not have a specific spiritual path or practice. Oh, yes. From what I have witnessed, as in what Rinpoche does, and also from my own experience, whether actually there's not much difference for a person who is in Dharma or not in Dharma, except that for a person in Dharma, when you talk about something like, Dorje Shuten and Rinpoche, it does have tremendous psychological relief for the person. I've noticed this myself. But other than that, both will be equally in a state of fear, state of confusion, state of frustration sometimes, because sometimes it's a prolonged period of illness, and it's very painful and difficult, especially it's cancer. So it's very difficult. They just want it to end. They want the pain to end quickly. It's not that they want to die, it's just that the pain is just incredible. It's just, you can't imagine. Because for some cases, even morphine doesn't help overcome the pain. So just imagine that. And so what happens is, but in general, for people who are dying, I think the medical term is palliative care, right? Because from personal experience, so I know the term. So what happens is, it's to help the person relax. So if it's a lot of pain, it would be good to have painkillers. Painkillers is good. And why? Because it is important not just experience the pain and then that's purifying karma. No, because why? The person who is dying, and if the person is in a lot of pain, it's tremendous, a lot of mental suffering. And when they are in pain and suffering, it's difficult to focus. It's difficult to have a clear mind to think about something higher like Doji Shun or Rinpoche or your guru or your Yidam or Lama Tsongkhapa or Manjushri. It's very difficult because we are not attained. An attained person can focus through it is possible. But since we are not attained, we don't have that kind of concentration and meditative power. So it's good to help to do your best to calm the patient down, the dying person down, to say everything will be all right. Sometimes sometimes we do have to say white lies in a sense that, oh, everything will be all right, your family will be all right, nobody, everything is fine. Sometimes you have to help them, to calm them down and to make sure that they are feeling good. That's one. First, they have to calm down. Number two is they have to learn to let go already, because once they calm down, they start worrying. Once they're in a calm state of mind, they will start to think about their father, their mother, their siblings, their children, their grandchildren, their property. They start to think about things like that. Then they haven't written a will and stuff like that. So if there's time, they are get all these things settled, and then focus on just what I tell some people. I said, start focusing on your next life. Yeah, but we can make requests to Doji Shuten. If you are a practitioner, like you can request every day when you do your prayers, your mantras, request Doji Shuten that to take you to a good rebirth, to a family who's dharmic. Don't ask Doji Shuten only when you're dying. You make requests, you prepare, since you reach that. So you have one added advantage, because your time is near. Request to Doji Shuten as possible, because the more you request Doji Shuten, the karma you create this affinity with Doji Shuten. You open the karma, the affinity for him to come to help us. You cannot just ask at one moment, and then expect everything to happen, because he has to fight so much karma. So if you keep requesting, same thing like for other requests to Doji Shuten. If you want something to happen, like wealth and all, you think one little incense stick and one request will work. No, we have to do circum, and then we have to do the mantra. Some of us have to do retreats. So the same thing. So in this case, we keep requesting. For people who are passing on, this, my advice to them, to think about your future lives, to prepare for your future lives, to make requests. Since they already believe in Doji Shuten. Yeah, but if you don't, then just about calming down, and then about thinking about their family, relieve them of their burdens of their family, in the sense that they're grown up, they can take care of themselves. Don't worry about them, things like that. That's usually my advice, lah. Okay. So carry on. Then we contemplate the following 3 points. I have no idea when I will die. I may be young and healthy, but this does not mean that I will not die soon. Many young people die before their parents. There is no certainty in this world. There are many causes of untimely death. For example, many strong and healthy people die as a result of unforeseen accidents. This human body is extremely fragile and can easily be destroyed, even by the smallest of objects. Yeah. This is really true right now with the COVID. It's so tiny you can't even see it. By contemplating these points, we realize that the time of our death is completely uncertain, and that we have absolutely no guarantee that we will not die today. When we are convinced of this, we should mentally repeat over and over again, I may die today, and concentrate on the feeling it evokes. Then we contemplate the following 3 points. At the time of my death, my wealth and possessions will be of no benefit to me. That's number 1. Number 2, at the time of my death, my family and friends will not be able to help me. That's number 2. Number 3, at the time of my death, even my body will be of no use to me. By contemplating these points, we will realize that at the time of our death and after our death only, Dharma practice will help us, and we meditate on this conclusion. Okay, this contemplation is very good. There's two contemplations. There's 3 points and 3 points. First 3 is about we don't know when we're going to die. We may die young. It may be we don't know what's the cause, and our body is fragile. Anything can happen. It can be the smallest cause. That's the 3. It's very interesting because when my mother passed away, and then she was interred in the crematorium, and I was just looking around the crematorium while waiting for things to happen, so certain things to be done, and I'm just looking at the people who were deceased, and at that moment, I look at the pictures and I look at the dates. Usually they have the picture of the deceased and the year they lived and the year they passed away, and the year, and sometimes they have a little saying of the person or whatever, or a religious quote. So I've noticed that about around roughly 20 to 25% of the people in the crematorium are young people, younger than me, or around my age. Okay, true enough, some of you are thinking, but you're not that young, you know. True, but a lot of them are quite young. That's my point. The percentage is higher than I thought. It's around 20-25%. And of course, they didn't say what's the cause of their death. And you just see them smiling there. And a sense of, how do I say this? A sense of like pity, you know, that they die. Some of them are very pretty. Some of them are good looking. They have a promising face, you know, like they would have a successful life. They live, you know, they'll be happy and things will be good for them. They just, sometimes you can tell from the face, or they look at. So it's just a sense of pity, you know, a sense of like, what wasted. And that's what I thought when I was thinking. And it just fits exactly this contemplation, because we don't know when we're going to die. And this kind of thought and contemplation, I know some of you, for people, you are guys in the Dharma, you're probably okay, but if you tell it to people, it's like, what do you think like that one? To people who are not in the Dharma. But it's good for us. I always tell, like sometimes I tell my friends a little bit about things like that, and then when they start to say, why do you think like that? You know, then I just say, but it's good for your soul. You know, to help them understand, because it makes you a good person. It makes you appreciate things. It makes you appreciate what you have. So that's why it's good for your soul. For people who don't believe in Dharma. Okay, I have a question here from Chi Hua Kwan. Request to whom? I couldn't make up the word. Oh, I think you were talking about, you mean the part about when we are going to die, who do we request? I was specifically talking about Dorje Shukden. Dorje Shukden is the Dharma protector of Kechara, and he is a extremely powerful Buddha deity that we request for help, for assistance to overcome our problems, our financial, our material, our spiritual problems. And so at that moment, and if we know we're going to die, which all of us generally have a feeling that, you know, it's going to come, so it's good to request him, because first of all, he is an emanation of Manjushri. He's a fully enlightened being. So when you make a request, you're connecting with a Buddha, an enlightened being. And then when you request, you create that cause. That's what I was trying to say. So who I was referring to? Dorje Shukden specifically. But it doesn't have to be Dorje Shukden. For some of us, we are close to Tsongkhapa. Some of us are close to Kuan Yin. We have very strong affinity. We've been praying since we're young. You can, no problem. You can make requests. Okay. And what else? I wanted to say a few things. I hope you guys are seeing me. I'm okay, right? Because my computer froze. So anyway, the other thing is that Yeah, the other thing is that a lot of people focus, even me myself, I know I'm cycling, I'm exercising, and so we put in a lot of tremendous amount of energy into exercise, into diet, into lifestyle, in order to be healthy, in order to live longer. But we don't realize that that longer is only a prolonged, longer, a few years. And more importantly, it's what I'm trying to say here is it is beneficial only to have for our health for this life. It does not guarantee us that death will not come. Even for the most fittest person, that person will die, and it can come suddenly. All right, so because we have many cases of people who are extremely fit, they just have a heart attack, they fall down, and they die. So why that happened? Because of the three things I mentioned, which is life. Life is a type of karma that that we carry with us. That karma that kind of determines our lifespan, and then merits is the amount of energy we have accumulated, the deeds that is dedicated towards enlightenment. All right, and then the last is karma, just actions we did in previous lives of harming or non-harming others. So that energy will, if it's a lot of energy karma of not of harming, then we will get diseases, and then when we're about to die, we will experience a lot of health issues, which a lot of us will have because we have harmed physically others definitely many times over in previous lives. So we'll definitely have that store of energy in us, that karma in us, and we will experience it. So no Buddha, no Dharma protect, no force on earth will change that. We ourselves can. And preferably, we don't want to experience all the karma. What we can do is we can do purification practices, and that will help us with that karma. So hence, when we encounter disease, when we encounter illness of any sort, most of the time we only think from the perspective, especially when we're talking of than just the common cold, okay? We always think about looking for doctors, the right treatment, and all that, but we don't think from the spiritual aspect. We don't think of the pujas we can do, the mantras that we can recite, like medicine Buddha mantra, to purify the cause of the illness. Because if we do not purify the cause of the illness, we'll experience it again. All right? So it is important, I think, to remind people that it's also a spiritual aspect to dealing with illness and disease. And because we always want to immediately cure it, find doctor and all that. That's it. And then, yeah, when we heal, then something else comes along the way. So the cause is not purified. So that's why pujas and all are important, not as a means of of donating to Kechara or donating to the monks or to the Buddhist organization. It is puja is also very beneficial for us to purify our karma, especially for specific reasons like illness. All right. Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about regarding that, and I think the others are pretty self-explanatory. Okay, final page. It's not a very long chapter. Finally, we conclude our contemplations by making 3 resolutions. I will practice the Dharma. Resolution number 1. Number 2, I'll practice the Dharma right now. That's very motivational. Number 3, I'll practice the Dharma purely. We meditate on these determinations without distraction for as long as we can. We should put these resolutions into practice and integrate them into our daily life. By doing it, we protect ourselves from dangers of lower rebirth, attain a permanent cessation of all suffering, and even accomplish full enlightenment if we do it all the way. All right. So this was the chapter on death. For most people, I think we have various reasons why what motivates us to practice the Dharma. Death is usually most of the time it's a trigger. It's not something that motivates us to practice the Dharma. For most people, like for me, I'll take me for example. I'm not motivated by death. I'm not motivated, and that's why I practice Dharma. But because I know the Dharma now, it's one of my motivating factors. Okay, but if you ask me, just death alone does not motivate it. For some of us, maybe. For some of you guys, but in classical Lamrim style practice of the Dharma, according to Lamrim, death should be one of your main focal point, and reason being is because it is something all of us will experience, and it's something we see our loved one experience as well. So for different people, different, will be a different motivating factor. For me, it was more because of Rinpoche, of the kindness you have shown, of the knowledge you have shared with me, and because of the knowledge that I've gained from Rinpoche all through these years. It is difficult for me not to practice the Dharma because, in a sense, not because I'm holy or whatever, but because I know too much already. And if I don't practice, it's just insane, I think sometimes. It's insane if you don't, do Dharma, do sadhana, do retreats. And although I'm a very attached person, just like many of us who is watching me, all of us are attached. As long as we're not a Buddha, we'll definitely attach. We cannot say, I'm totally detached and all I care about is, my future life and, blah, blah, blah. As long as you are not attained, we are attached. We have our attachments comes in different manifestations. Okay, for some of us, it's a partner. For some of us, it's being right. For some of us, it's being, in a situation that is pleasant. For some of us, it's a comfort zone. For some of us, it's a wealth. For some of us, it's a family, a structure. For some of us, it's a career. For some of us, it's a name. If you lose that name, for different people, our attachments are different. And because we have attachments, and our attachments can be quite strong. And just because we are not afraid, some of us say, I'm not afraid of death. That doesn't mean you have no attachments. Even if you're truly not afraid. Okay, so if you know the Dharma through and through, you will not say, I have no attachments and I'm not afraid of death. So valiantly, so brave and say that, because when it comes, it's not a joke. It's not something to be trifled with, because it's just once. It will come once and it will be a deciding factor for many lifetimes to come. For most of us, it's what we call a trajectory. A trajectory is a momentum that we pick up in every lifetime, because the momentum that we are heading right now is where we will go in your next life, okay, in a sense of practice. And just because some of us think, we're practicing the Dharma now, we are in Kechara, I do some mantras, I offer some joss stick, donate some money, donate some time, I should be fine, right? But all that adds together, is it more than your attachments? That's the thing. Is it more than your attachments? So, and attachments does not necessarily mean physical objects. Okay, let me see if I have any comments. Sorry, because I'm just blabbering away before we end. Sometimes, I got some comments. Iman, Pastor David, from the Buddhism perspective, is one's lifespan indicative of their good or negative karma, excluding the attained beings who have control of their death? Thanks. Okay, negative karma. What you mean as in how short? Actually, karma is karma. It can be negative, it can be positive, and can manifest in a different way. Because for some of us, sometimes for some people, when they meet a health situation, they think they're going to die, and then it helps them in the Dharma. For some of us, if sometimes knowing that death is going to come makes us practice even more. So it seemingly is negative becomes positive. And what is positive, like, everything's fine, everything's, we are rich, we have all the things that we need, everything is fine for us, but we are not motivated to practice. We're too distracted. So if you talk on, it's not lifespan of a person, not how long the person live, not how short the person live, there's positive or negative karma. That's just very conventional. The Dharmic way of looking at it is what is good, and positive is how it changes you, how it motivates you. That's how Rinpoche sees it. So I'm telling you according to Rinpoche's perspective, okay? But general definition of good karma is usually good things happening. So short lifespan is good karma. Bad karma, long lifespan is definitely good karma. But not necessarily in terms of Dharma practice though, for some people. Okay, that's my take on it, and according to what Rinpoche has taught us. Okay, Iman has another thing to ask. Pastor David, what is considered as practicing Dharma purely? Thanks. Without the 8 worldly Dharmas. Yes, without the 8 worldly Dharmas. The things that we complain when you come to Kechara, like, this person likes to gossip. Oh, this person likes to play politics. This Kechara is always about us fundraising. I'm so fed up already. All these thoughts that come to us all the time, all the judgmental thoughts, is a reflection of 8 worldly Dharmas. We only practice if things are pleasant for us. We only practice when we are praised. We only practice if we are comfortable. We only practice when things are good. We only practice when people give you a gift. So if people insult you or say things that we think is an insult, we get angry, we get, we don't want to practice it. We think about leaving, we think about fighting, we want to fight back. So when we're in a Dharma and we have these thoughts, these 8 worldly Dharmas, then we're not practicing Dharma purely. Some of us, we practice the Dharma, we have a lot of mind games on how to manipulate people in the Dharma. And then we are happy when when we gain something from people in the Dharma. Because some of us, we bring our minds along with us, the way we operate on the outside. So sometimes, we have manipulative thoughts and manipulative behavioral patterns. And so that's not practicing Dharma purely. So it's really, really how we are honest with ourselves and understand. And I'm sure all of us have our little bad habits, and how much what we do to overcome them, especially if it is a hindrance to someone else, inconvenience, irritates, or affects someone else, then we should do our best to overcome it. Of course, it's not an overnight thing. That's why mind training is important. Mind training teachings, in a sense of coming to terms with ourselves, our self-cherishing mind, the wheel of sharp weapons that we previous program, of all the things that we experience, we have to examine. The wheel of sharp weapons is to tell you all the experiences we have. We have to examine what's the cause. Is it them or us? Since it's not them, definitely in Dharma is never the other person. It's always us. It's always how we operate and how we think. Then we have to examine our mind. What is the cause of it and how to change it? Ultimately, it's always our self-cherishing mind. And because of the self-cherishing mind, we operate in that way, and it affects this person negatively. So we have to change that. So to put it very simply, practicing the Dharma without the 8 worldly concerns, or at least lessen the 8 worldly concerns, completely remove 8 worldly concerns overnight. For you and me, it would be quite difficult, but at least lessen it, chip it over time. We know most of us have 1 or 2 that is stronger than the rest. So which one is it? So whatever which one it is, we chipped it over time. We focus on it. All right. So that's how you can practice the Dharma purely without the 8 worldly concerns. All right. All right, thank you very much. I've come to the end of this wonderful teaching on sharing on death and impermanence, and I hope it is of any benefit to you guys. And I have a list here of people that I need to dedicate. Okay, this sponsor number one is Patrick, dedicated to all sanctioned beings. And then to Mr. Lam and family, may the Dharma flourish in the 10 directions, may His Eminence Ten Rinpoche return swiftly. Number three is an anonymous with the dedication, may the global COVID pandemic end soon. May more sanctioned beings awaken their innate compassion and wisdom. And then sponsor number five, anonymous, dedication, may the Holy Guru turn the incomparable wheel of Dharma and that may lead us to enlightenment. And then from Lini, I think it's Lini Neo, right? No dedication. And then another one, last one, which is an anonymous, global COVID-19 pandemic ends soon. May more sanctioned beings awaken their innate compassion and wisdom. Very beautiful. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Chanchu Central Rinpoche, Maki Panagyu, Keba Yamami Payang, Kone Go to Pewa Show, Tony Tonga Rinpoche, Maki Panagyu, Keba Yamami Payang, Kone Go to Pewa Show, Dasuchin Sapaki Wadi, Tanandroa Kunla Kampada, Chebo Joso Lawson Drapa, Tamping Purindo Sa, Show, Kewa Kundoyana Lamadan, Dremi Joki Pala Long Chochin, Sada Langi on Tenrachoni, Toji Changi Gopan Yuto Show, Gewadi Yutuda, Lama Sangi Jufini, Chua Chika Malupa de Salagopa Show, Chujabo Sungava, Chosonama Pewala. Gekishama Jiwadan, Tuni Mama Shamasho, Dadan Shengi Dosundan, George Letene, Gawalo Sandrapai, Tamparin Bagu, Nemo Dalla Santella, Nemego in Dalaction, yes, and Tatu Della Bell, Conscious and Jingulo, Conscious and Odoso, Conscious and Tarshi, Show, Jason Lama Kusura Tunji, Namka Chileju Badan, Los Santa Jumis, Jumis Tatu Negushi, Gandri Rawe Koashingam, the Penant Del Malukiana, Chenresic one Tanzan Gassi, Sharply City Badu Dan Gushi, Hong Tombing Odru Malupa, then the Dalla Sadiso, Godan Temple Lojana, shook and sell. Thank you, everybody.